Well, the debate is over now, and we're going to show you the good, the bad, the downright terrifying, and explain to you why it's actually a lot worse than you originally thought as you were watching that complete and total show last night. We're going to give you all those details. Plus, is there now a plot for a bloodless coup to remove Joe Biden, not just from the ticket, but from the White House? We'll give you all those details and the complete and total, beautiful, glorious, exquisite, magnificent masterpiece of a media meltdown as they see all of the lies they've been telling us for the last several years crumble before our very eyes. We'll get into all of that and more talk about inflation and who's really to blame for your cost of living going sky high. That was a big part of the debate last night, and we'll get into all of it coming up right now. This is the post-debate blowout. We're brought to you by the Electronic Payments Coalition. I'm Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Yeah, it was horrible. It was terrible. It was a disaster. And I'll be the first to say, I didn't think this debate was going to happen. I've been telling you that since it was first predicted or scheduled. And boy, am I glad I was wrong, because this was amazing for all of us to actually finally be validated before our very eyes about what we've seen from this president and all the gaslighting that we've been getting from the left, from the media, from the White House, from everyone telling us that, no, what are you talking about? This guy is amazing. He's firing on all cylinders. He's the most together president that we've ever had in our entire lifetimes. When we've seen what the cheap fakes is what they tried to slander us with. Please, we saw it for our very eyes. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of highlights right now of how bad Joe Biden was. Sadly, lost in all of that is the fact that Donald Trump may have had one of the strongest political performances of his entire career right when he needed it. And of course, we're going to show you how bad Joe was, but we're also going to show you some moments where Donald Trump really, really shined and gave any voter that might have doubts about him and his ability to lead for 4 more years the answer that they've been waiting for. So let's get right to it. It all began in this fashion with Joe Biden and Donald Trump on that stage with no audience, with just Jake Tapper and Dana Bash on CNN. Every single demand that Joe Biden's people put on this debate, Donald Trump agreed to. Remember that. Everything that you saw was how Joe Biden and his team designed it. And well, watch for yourself.
What's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
That's the biggest takeaway soundbite. If you need one moment to sum up the entire evening, that was it, especially with this screenshot. Look at this side by side that CNN showed us all night long. Inadvertently, I think they were just doing it as a television device. But this was probably the most powerful political imagery we got. When you see the man on the left side of your screen in the red tie, in command not just of the facts and of his faculties, but in command of the stage and of the moment, rising to the size of the moment and filling it. And then you see the man on your right, a weakened, debilitated, shallow man whose voice could barely even get picked up on his microphone. I think I've mentioned this before on this show, but you know that whenever he does a campaign appearance now, and even most of his political appearances at the White House, official appearances, even though they have the podium set up with the microphones for anybody else who's speaking at the podium, when it's time for Joe Biden to speak, he uses a handheld microphone. Even though he's not going to wander around half the time, he's actually staying right at the same podium, but he uses that handheld microphone. And it looks like he's going to karaoke night at the local pub, right? I've mentioned this before. The reason is that he can put that microphone right at his mouth. And then they throw the gain up to its highest level so it picks up his voice and makes it sound stronger than it really is. He is absolutely physically debilitated from where he was several years ago, from where he was a year ago. And part of his physical debilitation is that voice. They told us 45 minutes into the debate that he had a cold. No, sorry, guys, that ain't a cold. And the lapel mic that he has, that he's wearing, along with the podium mic, is not enough to pick up his voice when he talks right into the microphone like he normally does. Without that crutch, without that technical trick that the White House has been using to fool you into thinking that he's healthier than he really is, you saw Joe Biden as he really, really is. Donald Trump's campaign team put together a fantastic minute-and-a-half montage of some of the lowest points in this debate. Let's go to those.
Both, how are you? Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I've not raised the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
Yeah, when a campaign puts out a video ad like you just saw, and the entire contents of the ad is just your political opponent speaking uninterrupted, without any response, without any retort, without any voiceover, it's just let him speak, and that makes a powerful case for your candidacy, you've had a good night. In fact, CNN did a flash poll of people who watched the debate and asked them, these are CNN viewers, asked them who won the debate. 67% of CNN viewers said Donald Trump won, which, begs the question, who the hell are the other 33% who said Biden? They need as much medical attention as Joe Biden does right now. There was a moment in the debate where the question of the crimes against innocent Americans at the hands of illegal immigrants, thanks to Joe Biden's open borders, came up. And Joe Biden attempted to pivot on that topic and make it about abortion. Now, I'll tell you what I think he was trying to say, but watch what he did say first.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
All right, so here's what I think he was trying to say, and he screwed it up in the most disastrous way. I think he was trying to say, okay, sure, yes, we had a horrific crime against a young woman at the hands of an illegal immigrant. But listen, because of your outrageous, draconian, Handmaid's Tale, anti-woman abortion laws that you put in place, we've got women who are getting sexually assaulted by family members, and you would arrest them if they cross state lines to get an abortion. Now, it's a evil, horrific, immoral, completely inappropriate comparison to make, obviously, number one, but that's what the left does. They try to equivocate everything into their worldview about abortion. Doesn't matter how bad that is. If you don't let women kill their unborn babies, you're the biggest moral monster on the planet. That's what they do. But he couldn't even do that. He couldn't even do that. And in the middle of that rambling, mumbling, incoherent statement, he actually highlighted for the audience that Donald Trump attended the funeral of the young woman who was murdered because of his policies. A completely unforced error, basically pointing out a great thing that Donald Trump did. And then, honestly, there was just nonsense afterwards. And if you've seen members of the media and Democrats and liberals freaking out, and they are freaking out right now, and we're going to get to more details of their freak out in a moment. But the reason they're freaking out is what you just saw. Because, see, they've got two things right now. All they've got is two things. They can't talk about this man's record because you know better. You know exactly how bad things are right now. They can't talk about the economy. They can't talk about unemployment. They can't talk about safety in the streets. They can't talk about the secure border. They can't talk about peace in the world. They can't talk about foreign policy. They can't talk about America's stature. They can't talk about any of those things. They've got two things. They've got January 6th, which they expand into Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And if you vote for him, you're voting for a dictator. They've got that, and they've got abortion. And this was a big moment for him to get a slam dunk, devastating moment about abortion. And, well, you saw what he did. And that's why they're freaking out. That's one of the reasons they're freaking out. All right, a little bit more here from the debate last night.
I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day,
What the hell was that? Who ends a statement with, and by the way, and then just leaves it hanging? And look at the eyes. Let's watch it again.
I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
thank you.
And by the way,
Look at that. What's terrifying, by the way, is I think he was hyped up on some sort of pharmaceutical. I'm sure it was just cold medicine for his really bad cold. And you can look at the eyes and the dilated pupils or undilated pupils, depending on what kind of cocktail he had. And you know, Dana Bash says thank you because the time is up, and he knows the time is up because there's lights everywhere and there's clocks everywhere. And he still says, and by the way, because the brain was already rolling down the hill and you just can't stop it. You don't have the strength to do that. You don't have the strength to stop the chain of events that are going on in your head, in the synapses to your mouth when you've got the drugs going on. And so you then have to slam on the brakes, but you go ahead and rear end the car in front of you with a, and by the way, and just leave it hang. I might do that from now on. You know, you always want to end a segment here on the show with some sort of button, with some sort of slam. Kevin, I'm just thinking, hear me out. I'm just floating it. But, you know, you always want a great exit line to end the segment, and then you throw the titles up, and then that's the end of the video. How about every single time I just finish with, and by the way?
Yeah, that can be our new outro.
Right? You know
Yep.
what? Get the title ready. Let's just see how it works. Just as a quick test. Ready? I'm Larry O'Connor. And by the way, I like it. I like it. I mean, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll just use it on those days when I have no way to get out of a segment. Sometimes you just talk yourself into a circle. You have, now, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to end this? Oh, I know. And by the way, it's actually not as good as his. I got to figure out how to do it like him.
Thank you.
and by the way,
I'm sorry. You got to laugh. You got to laugh. You know why you got to laugh? Because that guy right there is the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, and if you know of anyone, if you've got a family member, a spouse, a child, a parent who wears the uniform right now, this guy can put that loved one in harm's way with one order. And everybody knows exactly what's going on with this guy, and they've allowed this to continue. You know, we have had troops die in the last 8 months. Couple of soldiers in Iraq, a couple of Navy SEALs on an operation off the coast of Sudan. We've had members of the military die at his command because he has sent them into harm's way to carry out a mission. And shouldn't we investigate whether he was of sound mind when he made that call and knew what the hell he was talking about or thinking? Or did somebody put them in harm's way without his knowledge? Yeah, we laugh about this, but let's also remember how serious this is.
How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening, how close the police are to him.
Yeah, let's just let this run without sound, because honestly, again, we are operating in a visual medium here, and the visual is more important than anything. Watch Joe Biden and the side-by-side comparison here. And the moment when he, right there, correctly, accurately, factually says that Joe Biden coined the frame super predator. Actually, technically, it was he and Hillary Clinton in the mid-90s that used that term. And he acts like he's never heard that before. But it is 100% accurate. And again, the side-by-side visuals, it couldn't be more stark. You know, the people for the last several months, or for the last year for that matter, who have been saying, oh, sure, Joe Biden's 81, but heck, Donald Trump is only 2 years younger than him. There's no real difference. You know, he's losing it too. You see the 2-year comparison here? You see the side-by-side? I've said it 1,000 times. The problem with Joe Biden and the concerns about Joe Biden are not that he's old. It's that he has mashed potatoes for brains. He's had 2 brain surgeries in his lifetime. Yes, he's 81, but he's an old 81, okay? And he's a damaged 81. And this visual right here is the end of the election as far as Joe Biden's concerned. We'll get into more details on that coming up. But again, Donald Trump, great night. Joe Biden, awful night. Let's focus on some of the great moments for Donald Trump as well.
On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. That what happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
That was such a great moment, mostly because it was supposed to be one of the weak spots for Donald Trump. It was supposed to be one of the gotcha moments that Tapper and Bash had all lined up and that the Biden people were counting on. And that was challenge him on January 6th, make him defend his actions on January 6th, make him deny that anything was wrong with January 6th. And Donald Trump took that and said, you want to talk about January 6th? I'll tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a secure border. January 6th, we were energy independent. On January, I don't know who on Team Trump, and maybe it was Donald himself, came up with that when they asked about January 6th. Address it and then move right to this. You know, this is a great debate tactic that you see seamlessly, flawlessly executed by the former president here, which is when you've got a vulnerable spot, hit it, address it quickly, and then immediately pivot and focus on the weaknesses of your opponent. Use the rest of your time to go on the attack. don't be defensive. If you're defending yourself and if you're explaining, you're losing. So instead, address it. Don't be evasive. Don't lie. Don't do anything like that, but immediately go on the offensive. And boy, that is a masterclass right there on doing that. Not only going on the offensive on attacking the record of your opponent and making it about what Americans really care about, which is not the events of 4 hours in January 6th on the Capitol, but our border, our crime problems, our national security, our foreign affairs, and our economy. That's what the viewers were looking to hear answers about. And not only were you attacking Biden on his vulnerabilities, but at the same time, you were reminding them that you did a damn good job. Absolutely brilliant. I know you're getting a lot of clips today and a lot of analysis of how bad Biden was. And yes, we're doing that. But it's really important to focus on what a good night Donald Trump had, irrespective of how bad Biden was. All right, a little bit more.
Making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
I mean, again, this clip, by the way, I don't know, between this clip and the one where Trump said, I don't know what the hell he just said, and I don't think I didn't understand what he said, and I don't think he understands what he said. Those two clips, you look for that Reagan moment in a debate, or you look for the one takeaway, the one soundbite that'll live forever, right? I'm paying for this microphone, or there he goes again, or I won't make fun of my opponent's youth and inexperience when they were going after Reagan for his age. Those were all Reagan moments. There was also the, you're no John Kennedy moment against Dan Quayle, even though Lloyd Benson, the running mate of Michael Dukakis in 1988, ended up losing the election, even though he had that one big takeaway moment in the debate. You're looking for the takeaway moment in a debate. Those two are the takeaways here. I have no idea what the hell he just said, and I don't think he knows what he said. Or this one. This one is so good. And we're going to watch it one more time, but this time I want you to focus again on the side-by-side, but mostly on Trump, because as Biden's brain is malfunctioning and has no idea what he's saying, Donald Trump's just little cock of the head looking at him, almost partly out of concern. Are you okay? Are you okay, dude? But also out of, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. What the hell is he doing? What is happening here? The message that body language of just a little cock of the head conveyed is huge. But then when Biden incoherently comes up and says, we beat Medicare, which makes no sense. What do you mean you beat Medicare? Was Medicare an opponent of some kind? He can immediately take that nonsense moment and then flip it, make a 180, and turn it into a stinging takeaway soundbite against his own opponent by saying, yeah, you beat it to death. Again, because do you think Joe Biden can think on his feet like that? Do you think that he can make a turn like that? Of course not. He can barely say what he's been memorized to say, or possibly being told to him to say in his earpiece that we're not supposed to acknowledge he was probably wearing. Here it comes again, and watch it with me.
Person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look,
The double take.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's
Just, again, Biden, horrible. Trump, really, really good. All right, a little bit more.
Had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
Now, that may be one of the most despicable, disgusting lies that you've heard from any president of the United States. This is an unforgivable moment. And I don't know if Biden believes that, if he literally has no memory of what happened on his watch due to his incompetence. or whether he's just trying to deceive everybody. Oh, that was 3 years ago. No one will remember. But to stand up there and say that he's the first president, first he said centuries, then he said decades, to not have any military casualties during his presidency, when we all know that 13 service members died during his incompetent pullout of Afghanistan. They died because of his incompetence, because of his bad orders, because of his horrible Pentagon infrastructure and leadership that didn't stand up to him and say, no, Mr. President, what you're trying to do here in Afghanistan is going to get someone killed. You'll remember the 13 service members who died during his presidency because of his bad orders that he gave for the pullout of Afghanistan. You'll remember them because when their remains were brought back home in the flag-draped coffins during that solemn ceremony in Dover, at Dover Air Force Base, the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief who sent those 13 brave Americans to their grave, President Joe Biden checked his watch several times because he had other places to be. Yeah, we remember. You may not remember, or you may think we don't remember, but we remember. All right. All right. And after that solemn moment, there was then an exchange, which again may go down in history as one of the more entertaining, strangest, but also a great indication of who these two men are, moments in debate history, in American political history, and that would be the challenge over their golf games. If you missed it, you need to watch it in its entirety.
I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21.
That may be my favorite part, is that it was then Donald Trump who had to call a halt to this and say, could we not act like children, please? Let's not act like children. This is actually kind of a serious thing. And I think Biden got lost in the moment. You know, you can insult a lot of things about Joe, but don't insult his golf game. Also, I loved Trump's reaction here after all the lies that Joe Biden said last night. And Trump just sort of let it all sort of brush off his shoulder and roll off his back. And he was pretty nonplussed. The only time he reacted to the lies was when Biden claimed he was a 6 handicap. Keep your eye on Trump here as Biden rambles on about how great a golfer he is and how he has a 6 handicap. And when Trump hears it, his reaction, here it comes. He's trying to keep it together. He's keeping calm. Yeah. Okay. There he goes. I don't know why, but that's just the purest guy moment. Those are just a couple of fellas. I did love also the social media reaction to that, which is, wait a minute. Could we actually solve this entire thing by just having them do a golf match? Because we could raise enough money to pay off the national debt, or at least close to it. All right. Then post-debate, there were more disconcerting moments. Now, you'll see here, this is a wide shot of the CNN stage. You've got your moderators there right in the center. Remember, this was an empty room, right? With no audience. Donald Trump is on the podium on the left. You can see the boom crane camera there as he's turning stage right to walk off. You'll look at the podium on your right, and there's Joe Biden, and there's Jill, Dr. Jill. She's a doctor, you know, his wife, the first lady, in that light blue pantsuit. Now, keep an eye on them. It's a wide shot, so it's a little hard to see, but you're going to watch. Joe wants to go and thank his partner.
Making their way off the CNN debate stage.
Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. So to do that, he needs to walk down 3 steps that you can see right there in front of him. So he's standing there kind of wobbly, not sure what to do. So Jill has to then jumpstart him, nudge him along, and then, well, he's looking for a handrail that doesn't exist. So now he has to go down those 3 steps. Look, he has to sidestep to go down 1 step at a time. It wasn't even 3. I'm sorry. It was 1 step. And then Jill, like the visiting angel she is, wearing scrubs, escorts him over to the desk. That's everything you need to know. That's everything you need to see. The president is not well. He is, as Robert Hur, the U.S. attorney and special prosecutor that investigated his criminal handling of classified documents, as he said in his report to the attorney general, he is incapable of standing trial because of his memory and his lack of mental facilities. And physically, he can't even walk down a small step on the set of the debate without physical assistance from his wife. His wife, the enabler. His wife, the elder abuser. As you can see in this moment, during a post-debate rally at a viewing party, Biden was ushered over there for a made-for-television moment, and he was introduced by his loving, adoring, and enabling wife with this rousing summation of the President of the United States' performance last night.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie! Yes.
I watch this. I don't feel any sympathy for him. I know, I feel sorry for him. I don't, because he's just a bad guy. And during the debate, he said that all of you who support Trump are actually opposed to our Constitution and looking to destroy our country. He spent the last 4 years calling me a fascist, insurrectionist, terrorist. He ruined people's lives in his narcissistic bid for more political power. I don't feel sorry for him. But I am angry. I'm angry at what these people have done to our country, using this man as their meat puppet to gain power and to wreak the destruction that they have wrought on this country. And boy, talk about a low bar to
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question.
I mean, there's no denying that. He did, in fact, answer every question. Good for you. Here's your star. Here's a Tootsie Roll. Now you go back into the corner, and we'll wake you up when everything is done, when the grown-ups are done talking. It's mortifying to see a wife in public address her husband in this way. It is, and again, with the sound off, watch Joe Biden, watch the body language, watch the expressions, watch him. Keep your eye on him. Look at the face. Look at the look. Look at the... Yeah. Oh, I know. This is all just a cheap fake. It's just a cheap fake. All right. One more here. He then went to a Waffle House. All these made-for-television moments with paid, volunteers in the scene.
Mr. President, how did you perform tonight? I think we did well. Do you have any concerns that you should have that you're not doing the job, your voice, your performance tonight? Do you have any concerns about your performance?
No, it's hard to debate a liar. New York Times pointed out he made lied 26 times.
big lies. He did tell us.
There you go. Hard to debate a liar. New York Times said that he lied, so it's got to be true. Hard to debate a liar. That's their talking point at this point. Trump lied, Trump lied, Trump lied. I just showed you some of the best moments that Donald Trump had. None of it was lies, of course. And as if Joe Biden's performance doesn't stand on its own. And by the way, it's not hard to debate a liar. It's actually quite easy to debate a liar, especially when that liar's microphone is turned off by your demands. You see, here's how you debate a liar. If you're debating a liar and they lie, then you stop and you say, oh, well, that's a lie. And let me explain to you why it's a lie. Here are the facts. I know the facts. That's how I know he's a liar. And I will deliver them to you. And then it's up to the American people to decide who you believe. All right. But that's how you debate a liar. You debate a liar by not looking like a brain damaged, feeble old man with 1 or maybe even 2 feet in the grave while you're standing on stage. That's how you debate a liar. But that's the best they got. That's all they got. And I want to share with you one last thing here. This is from Byron York, Washington Examiner. He interviewed Donald Trump last week and asked specifically about the debate because, as you know, many people were like, oh my gosh, why is he doing this debate under these terms and under these conditions? They're setting Donald Trump up for failure, right? Because he agreed to everything. This was all set up by the Biden campaign. And here's what he said. I want to read it to you from Byron York's column. What they did, I'm pretty sure, is that they approached me with a debate that I couldn't take, Trump explained. Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, Trump referred to the CNN anchor as fake Tapper throughout. I think that's hilarious. No audience, sitting down, originally sitting down, a dead debate, turn off the mics when you're not speaking so I can't interrupt them. Then they knew I wouldn't accept that because it was CNN, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, and I like an audience. Probably he doesn't. Who knows? So they thought they would present it. I would say no. And then they would say, we can't debate because Trump said no. So I said yes before they even gave me the terms. So he got roped into it. And we'll never really know, except when the tell-all books come out and we learn just how disastrous this entire thing was when the people in Biden's inner circle actually admit to it. But boy, oh boy, if that's the case, you talk about the art of the deal. This is Donald Trump outplaying Joe Biden in a masterful way. And it's a good reminder to everyone as you see this post-debate spin and you see that somehow over the weekend, they're going to figure out a way to, forgive me, polish the turd. And listen, by Monday, the mainstream media, the corporate legacy media, the people who are in tank, who are driving this ship, actually, that Joe Biden seems to be in the captain's seat of, the media is going to, by Monday, have people actually believing that Biden won this debate. That's how deceitful and insidious they are. And of course, they write the history books. So at some point, it'll make its way into your kid's AP history exam. Who won the debate of 2024? Oh, Joe Biden did. Everybody knows that. But remember, as you know what really happened, as you see before your very eyes what transpired, that everything that happened last night at the CNN presidential debate, everything was crafted, created, written, and demanded by the Biden campaign itself. And Donald Trump still outplayed every single one of them. Election day 2016 was a pretty amazing night. Of course, it was the end of Hillary Clinton's political career. That woman will never be president. That's fabulous. And of course, it was the election of Donald Trump defying all the odds. But if you're like me, one of the real beautiful, amazing things about election night 2016 was the media reaction. Do you watch those videos, the compilations of MSNBC melting down when state after state after state is called for Donald Trump, and you start to see before their eyes the realization that Trump's going to be president? It's a glorious thing. It's glorious. So last night, the debate between Biden and Trump on CNN, the reaction afterwards, almost as glorious. I mean, it's right up there. So let's take a look, shall we, at some of the great moments. First, though, a revealing statement by Erin Burnett on CNN that not a lot of people caught as she was doing a quick fire roundtable there with Chris Wallace, Caitlin Collins. Listen to what she says about why Biden should have had a better night. Watch.
January 6th. But Chris, he goes through 6 days of preparation at Camp David.
More than that.
And they know the
It
rules.
was more than a week.
Okay, and so more than a week. They know the rules. He practices with the mics. He knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the time. Now, I just want to, let's see what the White House is saying. Sources close.
I'm sorry. Did she just say that he knows every one of these questions is coming? Now, I've seen some people react to this and say, well, what he meant was he should have anticipated questions related to the topics. None of the topics were a surprise, but she didn't say that. And if you watch this as she's laying out this little litany of things, all these reasons why Joe Biden should have done better, you know, the days off preparation, the rules that they set, all that. Watch how she sort of has a hesitation, a pause, almost like, ooh, I probably shouldn't have said that part out loud, right? Watch again.
He goes through 6 days of preparation at Camp David.
More than that.
And they know the
It
rules.
was more than a week.
Okay, and so more than a week. They know the rules. He practices with the mics. He knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the
Did you notice that? You notice that pregnant pause where she's like, oh crap. Let's just keep going. Maybe nobody noticed what I just said. He knows every one of these questions is coming.
He practices with the mics. He knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the time. Now,
I think that deserves an investigation. Although I would agree with Aaron Burnett. Even knowing all these questions are coming, he still was a complete and total dumpster fire. Let's switch over to MSNBC, shall we? And see how Joy Reid is taking Joe Biden's performance.
I, too, was on the phone throughout much of the debate with Obama world people, with Democrats, with people who are political operatives, with campaign operatives. My phone really never stopped buzzing throughout. And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic. The people who were texting with me were very concerned about President Biden seeming extremely feeble, seeming extremely weak. I, too, was on the phone throughout much of the debate.
All right, so let's be clear here. When it's relayed to you that there is panic about Joe Biden, and it's understandable that there was panic, they're not panicked because they're concerned for this man, that there may be something physically wrong for him. They're not concerned about the future of our country when they see before their very eyes that an incapacitated, feeble man with clear cognitive issues is currently steering the ship of state and is our president of the United States. They're not even concerned that Joe Biden won't win the election, although it's sort of connected to that. No, the panic, the fear is that Donald Trump's going to win. You see, Joe Biden is not someone they actually care about. It's not even somebody they believe in. They never have. They used to make fun of the guy, even during all 8 years of Barack Obama's presidency. During those 8 years, Joe Biden did exactly what he did for the last 4 years for the Marxist organized political left in this country, manifest in the Democratic Party, at least the Obama world of the Democrats. He did one thing, and that was serve a purpose as a meat puppet for them to be able to keep power. Joe Biden was brought onto the ticket to make Barack Obama look more presidential, to shore up his foreign policy credentials, to be a non-threatening vice president who will go out and campaign, but not actually have any pretensions on the Oval Office, right? That's why he didn't pick Hillary Clinton. He picked someone who would be pliable, malleable, would be happy to be there so that he can work his corrupt little relationships through his brother and son with overseas partners and get rich. And for the last 4 years, he has served a purpose to stop Donald Trump and allow the Marxist agenda to continue through advisors like Susan Rice and even through Kamala Harris, who Obama handpicked. So the panic here is that it's all going to come to an end. And even worse, Donald Trump is going to get in there and start looking under rocks because he knows a lot more now than he did when he was president 8 years ago. That's the panic. Kristen Welker over on NBC, MSNBC specifically, or no, this was on NBC News because they did broadcast network coverage. Here's Kristen Welker, the moderator of Meet the Press.
Well, Lester and Savannah, there's no way to sugarcoat this. This night got off to a tough start for President Biden. He delivered a performance that was at times halting. At times, he seemed to lose his train of thought. At times, he started to talk about one topic, for example, the economy, and then shifted to Afghanistan, which gave former President Trump an opening. And the topic of abortion, his strongest topic coming into tonight, he raised the issue of immigration, which gave former President Trump an opening.
Yeah. Boy, they're really angry that he didn't nail abortion because that's all they've got. And by the way, I love that she says that's his strongest issue. Is it, though? Is it? Because the majority of Americans are not with Democrats right now on that issue. They don't think that abortion should be legal right up until the moment of birth. So I love how deluded that they are. Listen, abortion is Democrats' strongest issue only when they can lie to you and pretend that it's not what it is. That's why they're pro-choice or pro-reproductive rights, or a woman can do whatever she wants with her body, and mean old white men shouldn't be able to tell them otherwise. Also, real fast, the beginning of this is so revealing about Kristen Welker, who she is and who NBC News is. Again, she's the moderator of Meet the Press. And what did she say at the beginning when giving her analysis of the debate?
Well, Lester and Savannah, there's no way to sugarcoat this.
There's no way to sugarcoat this. I'd like to. And I know you brought me on here to try to sugarcoat it, but I'm sorry, I'm incapable of doing it. Why would that even be part of the thought process? Well, I'm here to deliver facts, so let me do that. No, that's not what she said. What she said was, there's no way to sugarcoat this. And I know I should, and I want to, and I only pray to God that I could, but even I am not that talented to sugarcoat what we all just saw. Okay, moving back over to CNN, John King reveals exactly what's going on in the corridors of power in the Democratic Party right now.
That right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists. It involves elected officials. It involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket. And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans, don't think Donald Trump had a great night. Donald Trump broke the fact check machine more than I can count that right now.
Yeah, okay. Let's translate this, because as you hear these analysts say, yeah, people are trying to figure out how to get Biden off the ticket. We'll get to that a little bit later, because it's really revealing that that's exactly where they go immediately. How can we get together and alter the course of time and alter the course of history by just managing this ticket and getting Biden out? But understand what he's saying here. When it's, a few people deep in the Democrat Party apparatus, funders, senior members of Congress, and party apparatchiks, that was the only audience Joe Biden needed to please last night. Joe Biden did not, let's just be clear here. Joe Biden did not need to win this debate, okay? The media was going to crown him the winner no matter what he did, as long as he wasn't a disaster. He had one goal. And by the way, this is why they're doing this debate as early as it is. Because after the Robert Hur report that said Joe Biden is mentally unfit to stand trial, people in Washington finally started saying the quiet part out loud, saying, this guy is a problem. This guy is a disaster. And after all of the Trump trials, and after the conviction, and after all of the noise about how Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and they'll never vote for a convicted felon, and then suddenly still poll after poll after poll showed him winning, they decided we got to have an early debate, because if he's a disaster, we've got time to maneuver. But all Joe Biden had to do yesterday was not be a dumpster fire. All he had to do was, well, what he did in February at the State of the Union address. Give people just enough to go with so that they could lie to you without you seeing right through it. And he didn't deliver that. So that very small audience that he was trying to please, the power base of the Democratic Party, they're not happy. They're displeased and they want to make a change. That's what John King is revealing here, and he's absolutely right. Alex Wagner, back over to MSNBC, sort of confirms this.
I'm not going to put a fine sheen on it or a spin on it, even though I'm in the spin room, Rachel. There has been a uniformly negative reaction to Biden's performance tonight. Surely, as Joy said, this was about revealing who Donald Trump was, but it was also Joe Biden battling a caricature of himself as an enfeebled person, an impression that Trump has been eager to convey to the country. And he did nothing to disabuse, I think, the country of the notion that he is very old and was lost frequently in that debate.
You see what's happening here, and we're going to see it in a moment with Chuck Todd as well. They're such liars. And they hold you in such contempt that they can't actually bring themselves to say, well, I guess all you MAGA types who thought that Biden was too old and too out of it to be president were right. Yeah, you were right and we were wrong. No, instead it's, well, he's just playing into the caricature that conservatives and right-wing media have painted. Hey, Alex, maybe it's not a caricature. Maybe we were being honest. Maybe you should try it sometime. Because if you believe that all of these media types that we've been watching together were suddenly shocked and surprised to see just how old, feeble, and incoherent Joe Biden is, well, no, they're not shocked at all. They're shocked that he couldn't hide it on this one night, the way he's been able to hide it on other nights, like the State of the Union or other speeches that he's given. There's a reason why he doesn't give press conferences. There's a reason why he doesn't do anything that isn't choreographed and scripted. There's a reason why he doesn't sit and do a television interview, for that matter, that is live at least. Any interview that he does is heavily edited and chopped up, and they never let us see the reality of it. No, these media people have sat there and lied to you. And they've brought on people like Dan Goldman or Adam Schiff or Nancy Pelosi who will sit there and lie to you as well when they say, well, I worked with him back behind closed doors and he's the sharpest I've ever seen. And they never challenge that. No, none of them are surprised. They're just embarrassed that you've actually seen through it. You now see behind the curtain. Or they just can't keep lying, not with a straight face. Even they have a line that they won't cross. Here's Chuck Todd.
One of the things was, would either candidate look like the caricature that the other campaign has been trying to paint of him? And at the end of the day, Joe Biden looks like the caricature that conservative media has been painting. And there were no clips tonight, right? This was, you saw it before your eyes. Look, I don't want to just tell you what I think here, Tom. I've been talking to a lot of leaders in the Democratic Party, electeds, coalition leaders. There's a full-on panic about this performance. Not like, oh, this is recoverable. It is more of a, okay, he's got to step aside. There's a lot of that chatter. This is about as bad of a performance in order to that Biden could have delivered if his goal was to try to sort of calm the waters among Democrats. I mean, look, there was,
There you go. So again, listen, I'll just repeat myself one more time because they keep saying, oh, he's living up to the caricature. It's not a caricature. We've been honest. They've been hiding. They've been running interference for him. For God's sake, he didn't even run a normal campaign in 2020. There's a reason why he was in his basement all the time. And even then, he was showing these signs of incoherence and incompetence. This is what we've been saying. And just like the Hunter Biden laptop, just like Hillary Clinton's emails, hell, just like anything related to Barack Obama in his past, we still haven't seen his college transcripts. They lie and cover up and run interference for them. And when you point out the obvious, they call you a conspiracy theorist. They call you a madman. They call you a freak. They call you a racist. They call you a xenophobe, whatever it is they need to call you to shut you the hell up. And well, Now they've reached their limit. At least with Joe Biden, they have. All right, now everybody you've seen so far up to this point, these are people who pretend to be journalists, even though they're actually Democratic Party activists and operatives. In fact, many of them, like Chuck Todd, used to work for Democrats, and then they go through that revolving door of the Democrat media complex, and they go right into the media, but still doing the same job they used to do on behalf of Democrat politicians. Over here on the Pod Save America podcast, these guys don't pretend. They are Democrat operatives. These are all people from Barack Obama's inner circle, the real power base of the Democrat Party. In fact, when you hear people like John King saying, you know, some of the people who really are the movers or shakers for the party, these are them. And what did they have to say?
We always want to be honest with you guys. I don't think we need to, you don't listen to us for us to sugarcoat anything. I think it was a disaster. I think it was like maybe the worst debate I've ever seen in my entire life. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Donald Trump is just a despicable human being. He should not be president. We have to do literally everything we possibly can to make sure he is not president again. And that is why it was so awful, because Joe Biden just in every single way failed at that debate. And I don't know what else to say there except that and then, you know, I won't make any other predictions now, but it was a disaster.
Don't you get a little nervous when you hear people who are Democrat Party operatives say things like, we need to literally do anything we can to keep Donald Trump from being president? I mean, he went out of his way to say literally. And I know millennials often say literally when they actually mean figuratively because they don't understand how words work. But I don't know about you. Gives me pause when I hear that. This is a guy who has Barack Obama's ear, and thus the ear of the deep state and bureaucrats that are really, you know, managing things in this presidency. We have to literally do anything that it takes to keep Donald Trump from being president. It would have been great if he had sort of added in there, you know, within the confines of the law. But no, I have no doubt, especially after last night, that they are trying to figure out literally anything that can be done to keep Donald Trump from being president, which is kind of funny if we can just pause for a moment here, because the open speculation right now is that they're going to ask him to step down from the ticket. He can finish out his presidency, but you know, you can't run for re-election, Joe. Your time is gone. It's just too bad you can't do it. And then they'll have a fight at the convention between Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer. Maybe Andrew Cuomo will show up. Kamala Harris, of course, is sitting there. And they're openly discussing this and debating this and speculating this before your very eyes about how they will do this at a convention. They're going to get rid of Biden and they'll put somebody else in. And I just got to ask, what's going on here? Because I've been assured by all of these very same people that it's Donald Trump who is a threat to democracy in this country, that it's Donald Trump who is a dictator and an authoritarian. It's Donald Trump who will threaten the very Constitution that keeps our country together, and that he will thwart the will of the voter and American citizen in this country. And yet at the same time, these guys are openly saying, yeah, so those Democrat primary elections we just had, where Democrats went and voted for Joe Biden, we're going to disregard all of those votes. We're going to move in. We're going to force Biden out. And then at a convention with a couple thousand delegates and super delegates, we few will decide who the candidate's going to be, someone who has never actually gotten a vote from anybody in this country for president. But Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Somebody should probably point this out to them, that they're openly discussing a bloodless coup right now. Let's swing back over to Joe Scarborough. When the Wall Street Journal published an article about a month and a half ago about how Republicans who have been working with Joe Biden over the last year have been alarmed at his lack of mental capability and his disastrous performance behind closed doors in cabinet meetings, Joe Scarborough had a lot to say about that. I want you to see a little side-by-side comparison put together by our pal Western Lensman. He does great videos. He'll show you what Joe Scarborough said then, and then we'll show you what Joe Scarborough said this morning.
But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. This is a battle for the future of American democracy. And now is a good time. In June, thank God, in June, and not October, in June, this is the last chance for Democrats to decide whether this man we've known and loved for a very long time is up to the task.
6 weeks ago, he was more cogent and better than he's ever been in his lifetime. And now Joe's got to go. Now, when Scarborough and other members, Mike Barnicle and other members of the team there on Morning Joe, kept beating the drum that something's got to be done and they got to take Joe Biden off the ticket, Mika Brzezinski, lifelong Democrat, decided to step up and call foul and push back against the panel and her co-host, her husband. What ensued can only be described as a very awkward and uncomfortable exchange between a husband and wife having a spat right before our very eyes.
For Donald Trump.
So
That was an indication
again,
that he was just not up to it.
Yeah.
Last night.
Okay. Hold on a second. That I agree with everything you said, except for the last part of it. Everybody calm down, and I'll tell you why. I mean, it's fine to not spin what happened last night, and we're not going to.
But by the way,
he had
Mika,
a terrible
by the way,
night.
Mika, everybody's calm here.
No,
you're the
but-
only one raising your voice.
No.
Everybody is calm here.
But again, it's the let's just immediately pull this. Let's end this. Let's find someone else.
That's not what Mike said.
That attitude toward this is what I am saying slow down on, because again, there's no spinning it, but let's be balanced. Let's for once show some balance in a media world that is so shrill with imbalance that we've become inured to the difference between these two candidates. So let's put it this way. Gene Robinson, I'll go to you.
Well, wait. I just have to stop you. First of all, we always show balance.
We are, yeah.
Secondly, nobody's panicking. I said these were questions that Democrats and Joe Biden needed to ask themselves. And Mike said he missed one pitch down the middle after another and wasn't up to it last night.
Right. Okay.
He said
wasn't up to it last night.
He said last night. So I will say that it's not panic. I mean, it's not being panicked to understand what's at stake at this election and understand the window is closing very quickly. And if Joe Biden is not up to doing this, and if last night did not reveal that to you and other Democrats, then it needs to be revealed pretty soon. Mike, finish your thought. Alex is asking me to go back to you to finish your thought and then back to Mika.
Last night, if it's on the ballot, you have the chance to vote for a good man or a bad man. There is no contest here, not even with last night's performance. Joe Biden is the good man. Joe Biden is the decent man. Donald Trump is the opposite. That's your choice going forward.
Right.
We all agree.
Gene Robinson.
I mean, first of all, between the two of them, this is why you don't hire a married couple for a political debate show, because it's uncomfortable. Because could you see the anger in their eyes and hear it in their voices? But then I do love that. Let's go back to Mike Barnicle so he can clean up the mess that he made here. And please say something nice about Joe. So let me give you my perspective real fast here. Because I do think that the Democrats have to do something. And I've been saying this for a while, and I think what happened last night is going to sort of reinforce it even more. Joe Biden cannot be the nominee for the Democratic Party on November the 5th for Election Day. Is it the 5th? I think it's 5th. On Election Day in November. He can't. They just can't. And I think that's why they had the debate early, so that they had time. And they have time. They've got about 2 months before the Democrats' convention in Chicago. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Michelle Obama and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom and all these things. They have one choice. They have one choice to make here. They have one play. It is a Hail Mary, but I think it's their best option because right now, first of all, even before last night, if the election were held today, Donald Trump wins. After this performance, I think it's evident that he will lose this election. So they have one choice, they have one option. They need to not just have him remove himself from the ticket, because you can't go out there and say Joe Biden is not capable of running for a re-election in November, and yet somehow he is capable of being president of the United States. It's all or nothing. And if you remove him from the ticket, he's got to step down from the Oval Office, either out of his own free will or a 25th Amendment situation needs to be triggered here. But either way, you can't take him off the ticket, but then keep him behind the resolute desk running our country. So Joe Biden's got to go. And that means Kamala Harris becomes president. And that means Kamala Harris, as flawed and as unpopular as she is, this is not what I want. But you don't come here just for, unicorns and fairies. You come here for some analysis and some cold, sober truth. And the truth is, the best chance the Democrats have, it is a Hail Mary, but the best chance they have is to run Kamala Harris as the historic first Black woman president of the United States, as an incumbent. And she's going to get great publicity, and she's going to get a honeymoon, and the media is going to love her, and she will have a few months to actually be seen as a president. And then she will run as president against Donald Trump in November. That's their only chance. There is no way on God's green earth that the Democrats, the party of identity politics, there is no way they can circumvent Kamala Harris. There is no way they can get rid of Joe Biden and then say, yep, next in line is the historic figure, the Black woman, Kamala Harris, and then say, yeah, step aside. We're going to bring in Gavin Newsom. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It can't happen. Their best chance is Kamala Harris, which, by the way, not incoincidentally, Kamala Harris showed up on CNN right after the debate for an exclusive with Anderson Cooper. And let's see what Kamala had to say.
Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong. And
I'm sorry,
that
on
cannot
substance
be
and
debated.
policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck.
She's reading notes right now, by the way. Take a look. She's got talking points just off camera. And she's reading them, so she makes sure she says the party line. Just wanted to point that out.
Those are Democrats, especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Listen, people can debate on style points, but ultimately this election and who is the president of the United States has to be about substance. And the contrast is clear. Look at what happened during the course of the debate.
Okay, a little bit more of Kamala Harris here, but just so you know, you're not going to have Kamala saying on national television last night, an hour after the debate, yeah, he sucked. I should be the nominee. That's not going to happen. So what we're really evaluating here is how she comes across in a Democrat's eyes as presidential, as someone who is strong, who's able to handle herself, who can basically take this thing the rest of the way to November so that they can stay in power. Again, she's just as much a meat puppet as Joe Biden is. But as long as she's there and she can win, that's all they care about, so they can stay in power. And more importantly, keep Donald Trump out of power.
But the president of the United States was not
important.
able to make that case to Donald Trump on the stage tonight. I mean, you debated against then Vice President Vice President Biden 4 years ago, and he was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when you debated him. You must, I mean, that's certainly true, is it not?
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A president who incites an insurrection against the Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5 hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But
whether
is that
it be
the man who
infrastructure,
we
the
saw
former
on the
guy, the
stage
other
tonight? Is that
the other
person
guy
you
on
see
the
in meetings
debate
every
stage,
day?
the person that you saw on the debate stage that has, for the last 3.5 years, up until today, performed in a way that has been about, whether it be in the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals.
This went on and on like this. And Anderson Cooper kept pressing the point and pressing the point, and it culminated in this exchange quickly.
But this was a debate that your campaign wanted. You pushed for this debate at this moment. Obviously, I mean, you can't honestly say, I mean, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.
There you go. It's just a slow start. It was fine. That is the bottom line here. They pushed for this debate. They wanted this debate. And now the only spin Kamala Harris could put on there after finally conceding, it's a slow start. The only spin that she had was this hour-and-a-half debate, pay no attention to it, ignore it. It doesn't matter. What matters is his track record for the last 3.5 years. Well, if that's the case, and if that's true, then why did they even want a debate in the first place? Why did they propose the debate? Clearly, the debate mattered to them for one reason or another. Maybe, as we mentioned earlier in the program, that this is really Donald Trump outsmarting them, that they offered a debate that they assumed Donald Trump would never accept the terms to because it was CNN and Dana Bash and Jake Tapper and all the other rules. And Trump said, you betcha, let's go anytime, any place. I'm ready. And then they were stuck. Maybe. But you have to challenge your own logic and your own mental capacity to believe what she's saying here, that, debates don't matter. Yet at the same time, know that they were the ones who demanded the debate and set all of the rules. Which leads us to our final point, which is if, in fact, this plays out the way it appears to be playing out right now, and that they do remove Joe Biden from the ticket and maybe even from the White House as a result of this debate last night that he demanded they have, that they engineered, that they coordinated, that they created from the start. If this ends up being the end of Joe Biden's presidency, or at the very least his reelection, this will go down in the annals of American history as the greatest political blunder of all time. And it's glorious. Inflation. We talk about it every day. We talk about it because we feel it every day. And as we see in the ongoing political debate right now, it seems like there's two stories. One side says, oh, inflation, it was there for a little while, but it's gone now. And the other side is, wait a second, inflation hasn't gone anywhere. I feel it. Every time I go to the store, every time I got to pay my bills, inflation's still there. Well, whether it's there or not, and whether you're still feeling it, a bigger question is, where does it even come from? I don't think any of the politicians making decisions right now even get that. Well, let's talk about the origins of inflation, what we can do to fix it, and what's making it even worse with our friend Richard Hunt. He's the executive chairman over at Electronic Payments Coalition, and he joins us now. Richard, always good to talk to you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, Larry, good day to you and all your great listeners.
Seems to me that, everyone said, well, inflation is just that everything costs more, but it's not just that, because things don't cost more because of market demands. Things cost more because government has intruded and made things cost more, right?
Yeah, look, we knew full well when COVID hit, there was some necessary spending that needed to be made, especially the first couple of months of COVID. Then it got wild and crazy under the Biden administration, especially the last two vehicles that passed the United States Congress that I think were just totally unnecessary. Look, even Larry Summers many months ago said this was a certainty that was going to happen. It was going to be a foregone conclusion. And while it was great for people to get thousands and thousands of dollars in their mailbox for relief, COVID relief, they went too far. And we knew there would be a day to pay the piper. Look, when Americans have to think twice about going to McDonald's in order to be able to afford a Happy Meal or a Big Mac, you know something is wrong. My Chipotle order used to be $16. Larry, the same order now is over $20. I go to Five Guys quite a bit because I love my double bacon cheeseburgers. I don't even get the French fries. A burger and a drink is over $20. Now, you saw what happened in California, where the state government said every restaurant worker must be paid $20. Larry, you know what happened then, right? You had massive layoffs in California. So here's the United States government. Here are the states' governments putting too much money, trying to dictate and control how Americans spend their money. And this is what happens. They just went overboard.
Yeah. Well, and for the last 2 years now, we've seen the Biden administration, along with people in Congress, say, oh, okay, well, let's get together and fix inflation. But then, of course, what they do is they pass more rules and more regulations and more things that just add on to the cost of doing business. It has the opposite effect.
Yeah. And look, this is an odometer on inflation, not a speedometer. Restaurant owners are not going to roll back their prices. The other day, I did a carryout and they charged me a service fee for carryout, yet they're making money in restaurants for carryout. So this is going to be a long time before we see prices reduce. You can't just unwind and go back to the future, if you will. I think we're in the world of hurt for a while.
Well, and Richard, this is what frustrates people because, when things are working in the market, when actually free market demands are making things more affordable and more efficient, the government messes with that too. Which brings us to, a favorite topic that we like to talk about, and that is this Durbin-Marshall credit card bill, where they claim they're trying to make things more affordable for the consumer, but actually they're going to end up hurting us even more.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt about it. Whenever Washington politicians get together in a backdoor room, they think they can figure out all the solutions for the private sector in this country. And a lot of the members of Congress have never even run a business. They get their money given to them each year by the public, and they spend as they so desire. And yes, here we are, Dick Durbin out of Illinois and his buddy Roger Marshall out of Kansas, trying to tell American companies how much they can charge for their product, all on behalf of the big mega store retailers. We know what happens when Washington, D.C. gets involved. And look, with high inflationary costs, the last thing you need to be doing is taking away miles that people use to travel to Oklahoma, to travel to California for an emergency funeral. And 70% of all cardholders are low to moderate income individuals, Larry. And you know what they want more than anything else? Not the miles. They want the cash back.
Yeah.
So here they are supplementing their monthly income. And here are politicians in Washington through the Durbin-Marshall bill trying to change the way America's credit card system works. We have the best Visa and MasterCard rail system in the world. We're the envy of the world. And here they are trying to change the way credit cards are processed, all on behalf of the big mega corporate stores of America.
Richard, I got to ask you to pump the brakes on that one data point, because that's astounding here. And again, this is at a time when businesses, especially small businesses, really need to encourage consumers to go out and keep spending because of inflation and because of all the problems. Here you've got something working with these cashback and various rewards. And did you just say 70% of those who are benefiting, 70% of low and moderate income people are the ones who are benefiting from that cashback? Why would you want to mess with that?
Yeah. So those people making under $100,000, 70% of that class want the cash back to pay for groceries, to lower their price at the pump, and also back to school areas. What we found, people use cash to buy the necessary supplies for their kids to go to school. And also we found an increase in spending around the holidays, of course, as people wish to buy gifts for their loved ones.
So let's get to the airline aspect of this too, because again, as things get more expensive, especially fuel, and we know how much energy costs are, jet fuel, I've noticed because I travel a lot and I've got a big family, those airline tickets cost more and more and more. Do you have any data with regard to how Americans utilize these airline rewards that they get off their credit cards? I know I'm one of them.
Yeah, sure. Look, Larry, this society in America loves their reward points. Some 15 million Americans just last year used their miles to travel in the United States and throughout the world. Some used it for a family vacation. They want to take their kids to certain states. We know there's unnecessary or unplanned trips for funeral expenses. People use it for that. This has a real impact on many states. For instance, in Florida, some 2 million travelers going in and out of Florida using reward points. And it's not just Orlando. It's also Sarasota, St. Petersburg, Fort Myers as well. And then also in Nevada. I know people like to go to Las Vegas, and that's one of my favorite cities in the country, but also Reno, Nevada. these second tier cities, if you will, outside the capitals and the premier cities. That's where people go to travel. So some 15 million people rely on their reward points. America loves their rewards. It drives loyalty to the various merchants, to the hotels, to the rent-a-cars.
So, Richard, the argument there, I think, from these big stores that are pushing this thing in the Senate is that, oh, hey, if we can reduce the cost of credit card transactions, we'll pass it on to the consumer. That'll end up lowering costs. I've heard them make that case. I've heard some of the politicians making that case. But I mean, I've been looking into this, and it seems like this is actually going to have the opposite effect. I mean, are there any savings to be found here by forcing these electronic payments in the way that the government wants it forced?
Yeah, so you have to remember back in 2010, Durbin changed the way merchants were reimbursed as well. And he said then that the merchants would reimburse the consumer in the form of lower prices when they changed the interchange rate on debit cards. Now, you remember, Larry, at one time, people used to get miles off of debit cards. So the merchants had the opportunity to pass on the savings back to the merchants. But guess what? According to the Federal Reserve Board out of Richmond, there were zero savings passed back to the consumer. So now they're back with credit cards trying to reduce the amount banks can receive in order to give you reward points. So just last December, Congressional Research Service did a comprehensive study. Remember, this is an independent body, Larry, and they said there is no credible evidence that the merchants would return the money in the form of lower savings to the consumer. Look, this is just a huge bailout for Home Depot and Walmart and Amazon of the world. Look, the Home Depot CFO said on an earnings call, they made some $13 million just on the savings of interchange. Didn't even hide the fact they did not return the money back to the consumer. So look, when Washington, D.C. and big mega stores tell you this is a great deal for the consumer, run for the hills.
Yeah, and those stores have one other thing in common. They always try to find a way to squeeze the small business owner, the mom and pop shop, the stores on Main Street. And we can't afford that anymore, not in this economy, not the way things are. Richard, thank you for shedding light on this and sort of helping to explain how these additional regulations and these rules and these hoops that people have to jump through, that's what adds to the cost of things. That's what adds to the inflation. As Ronald Reagan once said famously, the most terrifying words you're going to hear is, I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help. Thanks, Richard.
Never works out. It's never worked out and never will. Thank you, Larry.
Well, we're out of time, and that's it for this time. Until next time, I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.